The crimson sun bled across the ravaged cityscape, casting long, skeletal shadows of what were once towering skyscrapers. Xyler, commander of the Zidonian invasion force, surveyed the scene from his command cruiser, his 3 hearts heavy with a frustration that bordered on disbelief. Earth, this insignificant, resource-rich planet, was proving to be a nightmare. The initial assault had been swift, devastating. Zidonian dreadnoughts, bristling with energy cannons, had vaporized major cities in mere hours. Humanity, it seemed, had crumbled. Their primitive projectile weapons and clumsy atmospheric fighters were no match for Zidonian technology, centuries more advanced. Xyler had expected a swift victory, a simple annexation. He had been profoundly wrong. The organized armies had fallen quickly, yes. But then, something unexpected happened. The humans didn't surrender. They vanished. They became ghosts, whispers in the ruins. They fought like cornered badgers, vicious and relentless. They employed tactics that were unconventional, to say the least. Xyler had studied human warfare. He had dismissed it as barbaric, chaotic. Their strategies were messy, lacking the elegant precision of Zidonian military doctrine. But now he was witnessing the true nature of human conflict, a terrifying adaptability that the Zidonians, with their rigid, structured approach, were ill-equipped to counter. The Zidonians were conquerors, not occupiers. They were used to facing organized resistance, armies that met them on the field of battle. Humans, however, didn't play by those rules. They didn't have grand armies anymore. They had something far more dangerous. A burning rage, a desperate will to survive, and an uncanny knack for improvisation. They struck from the shadows, ambushing supply convoys, sabotaging communication relays, picking off isolated patrols. They used the ruined cities as their battleground, turning the rubble and debris into a deadly maze for the lumbering Zidonian war machines. They were like insects, swarming and stinging, impossible to eradicate. Xyler recalled the incident in what was once London. A squad of Zidonian shock troops, clad in powered armor, had entered the ruins, confident of a routine sweep. They never returned. Later, a reconnaissance drone discovered their remains, scattered and mutilated, their advanced weaponry useless against the primitive traps the humans had devised. One soldier had been found impaled with a sharpened piece of rebar. Another had been garroted with a piano wire. It was disturbing. The humans called it guerrilla warfare. Xyler's translators struggled to capture the nuances of the term, but the meaning was clear. Hit and run, harass, disrupt, never engage in a direct confrontation unless the odds were overwhelmingly in your favor. It was a war of attrition, a war of 1,000 small cuts. And the cuts were beginning to add up. Zidonian logistics were stretched thin. Supply lines were constantly under attack. The vast, heavily armored troop transports were vulnerable in the narrow, debris-filled streets. Their sophisticated sensors were often rendered useless by the dense urban environment, the electromagnetic interference, and the clever countermeasures the humans had developed. They used mirrors to blind sensors, EMP devices to fry circuits, and even simple, low-tech explosives to create chaos. The humans, it seemed, had turned their weakness into their strength. Their primitive technology, their lack of centralized command, their very chaos, had become their greatest weapon. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and utterly ruthless. They fought with whatever they could find, salvaged Zidonian weapons, repurposed construction equipment, even kitchen knives. Xyler had tried to adapt. He had deployed hunter-killer drones, designed to flush out the human insurgents. He had increased patrols, fortified supply depots, and implemented new counter-guerrilla tactics. But it was like trying to contain a flood with sandbags. Every time he plugged one leak, another sprang up somewhere else. The human resistance was growing bolder. They were even starting to attack Zidonian cruisers in orbit, using captured anti-aircraft batteries and modified civilian spacecraft. These attacks were more symbolic than effective, but they were a clear sign of defiance, a slap in the face to the mighty Zidonian Empire. They were learning, adapting, improving their tactics with every encounter. Xyler watched a recording of a human broadcast, intercepted by his intelligence services. A young woman, her face smeared with grime, her eyes burning with defiance, spoke to the camera. "They may have taken our cities," she said, her voice echoing with raw emotion. "But they will never take our spirit. We will fight them to the last breath. We will fight them in the streets, in the ruins, in the shadows. We will make them pay for every inch of our planet." Behind her, other faces, equally determined, nodded in agreement. They weren't soldiers, not in the traditional sense. They were teachers, mechanics, programmers, mothers, fathers, ordinary people transformed into warriors by necessity. Xyler felt a chill run down his spine, a sensation he hadn't experienced in centuries. He was beginning to understand the true horror of this war. It wasn't just a military campaign. It was a struggle for survival, a clash of civilizations, a battle of wills. The Zidonians, for all their technological superiority, were facing an enemy they didn't understand, an enemy that refused to be conquered. The Zidonians had the firepower, the technology, the resources, but the humans had something far more potent: an indomitable spirit, a fierce love for their planet, and a willingness to fight dirty, to fight smart, to fight to the death. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their very existence. This primal drive was something the Zidonians, who had long ago transcended such primitive emotions, couldn't comprehend. Xyler knew then that this war would not be the easy victory he had anticipated. It would be a long, bloody, and brutal affair, and for the first time he felt a flicker of doubt. He looked at the devastated city, at the ghosts that haunted the ruins, and he wondered if the mighty Zidonian Empire had finally met its match. Perhaps, he thought, these insignificant humans, these masters of asymmetric warfare, these ultimate guerrilla fighters, would be the ones to bring the invincible empire to its knees. The thought was unsettling, but a growing part of him feared it was true. He had come to conquer a planet, but he had instead stumbled into a hornet's nest, and the hornets were proving to be far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined.